Hi, I'm Melanie Southard, and today I want to go over a little bit with you on how I check my horses for body soreness. And this is something that everyone can do. It's not hard, it's very easy. And what I do is I use a needle head without, I'm not using the needle point itself, I'm using the cap. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to gently go over the horse's body. I'm not going to put a whole bunch of pressure, but you have to put a little bit of pressure to check to see if you're sore. But if you put too much pressure, just like with anything, you can make one flinch no matter what. So you kind of have to use a little bit of judgment on your horse if they're really, really skin sensitive or if they're a little bit more tougher to be able to see if that's actually soreness or not. And so what I like to do is I like to do a head to toe assessment. And this horse, he's a 3-year-old. He's born late, so he's a June baby. He was broke this year, late in the year, and he's been started on the barrels. He's barefoot, and he's been doing quite well, but I'm just going to go use him, and I'm going to go over this assessment. So the first thing I like to do in my assessment is I want to check and look at his face. I want to make sure his eyes look bright and his forehead and everything looks symmetrical. So I want to, see how his nose kind of looks. I want to check his jaw. I just want to gently move his jaw, under jaw, back and forth with my hands. Sometimes if horses don't like that, either it's because their TMJs are sore, or sometimes in here their teeth could be bad, or they might have a cap that's hanging, or a bad tooth or something. So it's just something very simple without having to stick your hands in their mouth that you can check very easy just by holding the nose and shaking the jaw back and forth. Next thing I like to do is I like to check around his TMJ. So I just kind of move around the TMJ. I come to the front here of his ear and check that. Go behind his ear. I check down here, around his jaw. I want to check the top line. So I'm going to come down the top line like maybe 2 inches from his crest of his neck, and go all the way above his shoulder blade, down his back, down his withers, all the way down, over his butt, to where the butt crease right here is coming down. I'm going to follow that butt crease down around the side right here, all the way down. Anyway, he didn't have any response, so that's good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here to the point of his ear area, and I'm going to run my needle back down, and I'm going to just go a little bit lower. I'm going to check his neckline here. Nothing. Stop fighting. I'm going to come down again a little bit lower, and I'm going to check the vertebrae. Everything seems to be fine in the vertebrae. I'm going to come down the slant of his shoulder, right in that groove. I'm going to check all that. I'm going to follow it all the way down into his boobie. Didn't have any response there, so that's good. Now I'm going to go from the top of his shoulder blade straight down. I want to check anything here. Everything's good. I'm going to come from the back side of the shoulder blade now down. I'm just going to follow it down. I'm going to check, see if there's any sensitivity in his serratus, all the way down to underneath, to the center point of under here, under his belly. Then I'm going to travel down his back again, and then right here at his last ribs, you can feel them. I'm going to make a turn, and I'm going to come down, and I'm going to check these points down here. I'm going to see if any of them are sore, which he's not reactive. Then I'm going to come from under his side of his belly here by his elbow, and I'm going to follow that up. I want to check to see if anything under here is reactive, which nothing is. Now I'm going to come from where I just was up here, and I'm going to follow it down between the center of his hip bone and the first line up here. And I'm going to follow it down. I'm going to go over the whorl bone and back down to this point where it connects down here. Another way you can do this is you can check the whorl bone. You can go over the whorl bone several times to check that. Over, because I can't see. Come here, move over. Move the other way. Let me adjust a little bit here because I'm by myself. Somebody asked me to make a video. Okay, so I just wanted to show you these points. Whoa. Okay, so I want you to see that when I come down here, this was the first line down the crease. Then I'm going to come from here, make my second line. I want to go over the whorl bone, which is located right here. I want to check the whorl bone and down. Then I also want to go over the point, they call it the hip bone right here is what most people call, so we'll call it. I want to go over that, I want to go around like I'm making a circle all the way around it, and I want to check that. And he's had no reaction. I want to go down over here through the stifles because these muscles kind of connect right in here, and this one comes up. There's some fascia material right here, so I want to check that point. There's nothing reactive. I want to go over the stifle. And be very careful when you go over it. You don't need a lot of pressure. Also want to check the inside in here because there's this muscle in here that gets very sore. So I'm just kind of running over it to check, make sure nothing's happening. I want to check his hamstrings. He's good on his hamstring, his small and his large hamstring muscle here. Everything's good. So on this side, everything is pretty good on him. Penis out. The other thing I like to do is there's a ligament that runs from the top of his head all the way down the crest of his neck. So I like to take my hand, I like to just kind of feel, pinch it a little bit, see if he feels sore. Runs all the way down. Then once I get over here to his withers, what I want to do is just take my fingers, I'm just going to glide down over the top of those bones and feel and see if everything feels pretty good and if he's got any soreness whatsoever. All the way down to the point of his tail, which he doesn't, he's good. The other thing I like to do to check some soreness is I like to check the SI. So I take my two hands up here and I just gently press in that divot, and I press on each side to check to see if he's sore at all. And you can see this horse, he's very solid up there. Nothing is reactive whatsoever. So he's basically really, really good. Muscle-wise, he's not had any problems. He's a pretty stout, sturdy horse. The only thing I noticed, he had just a little bit here in his back. He was a little bit tight. I can feel just a tick with my hand. It's very, very unnoticeable. So something I could do is I could stretch him myself and just make him stretch that a little bit out. So what I'll do is I'll take my little needle cap, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come underneath the center of his belly here, and I'm just going to give a little bit of pressure, and I'm going to keep on until he raises his back up. And once he raises his back up, I'm just going to make him hold it. Stop. Be careful that they don't kick, but you can see he's raising that up very nicely. And what that does is that just kind of stretches that back muscle out right there. I'd already did it earlier, and he had some vertebrae popping up here, and so he's pretty good now with it. But sometimes horses do not like it until they get used to it, and they will kind of kick. So just use caution when you're doing things like that, because we never can trust. They are an animal, and we never know sometimes what their reactions might be. Um, but that's kind of my little head to toe assessment, just a quick check on my horse. Nothing too invasive, anybody can do it. I hope this helps you guys. Again, I'm Melanie Southard, 3-time NFR qualifier. This is stuff I would do on the road myself and to keep my horses going. These are things I do every day to my horses, even my training horses that I have in. I constantly check my training horses because I always want them to be performing at their best. And I want to know if something's not right, because if something's not going right, I need to know now so then I can either take some measures to fix it myself, or if I need to go to the veterinarian to get it fixed from there. So then I can keep my horses in tip-top shape without getting sore. Anyway, I just thought I would give you a little insight on what I do. Thank you.